Hey, in this video I'll be repotting this juniper that I styled in a previous video. This is a time where I can repot a juniper if I have a cold frame for sure, otherwise outside it's still winter. And I will be putting them on a heat mat so that the roots start already to become active. My cold frame stays at around 2-3 degrees, but now with the lengthening of the days they normally go up to 5 degrees during the day, sometimes 6, and as the days start getting longer and the winter starts become milder, the cold frame will become a little warmer naturally, and this is okay, but the roots will be already warmer for now. This angle is too steep to wait for later on, and there is no reason to wait given that I have the cold frame. So the main reason to repot is not that I need to, other than the fact that it will be very hard to water it in this new angle. So you only repot a tree if it doesn't percolate water, meaning that the complete area in the pot is covered by roots, or that the substrate is completely degraded, or what is this case is for aesthetic reasons and functional because of the angle, but the change in the angle is due to aesthetics reasons, and therefore it will go into a new pot. The pot that I made is the one that you are seeing now, and it was made with concrete, following the same directions and procedure as in the previous in a previous video, and so it was made by thinking about this tree in particular. So let's get on with the work and get this repotting done and look at the result. The first thing that I will do is remove all the moss that I can reuse. Now I will cut the wires. Instead of trying to remove the wires, to cut the wires from the top and pulling from the bottom, what I will actually do is cut here in the middle, and now I can straighten these wires. If I were to cut just here, I will leave an edge that could snag and cut roots. So I rather straighten this and then cut inside. Now I can come around the whole pot with the kuma, and the way to do it the point is not to go in and grab like this. It's just from the surface down to make sure that the tree is separated. I believe the tree is already free here. Let's check. There you go. So this tree grew very well, and this is the new angle. So we will work first on the point of largest limitation with which is the top. Now all of this area here is dead, so there is a certain amount of roots here that, even if they're probably not alive, but if they are, they are not necessary. Now we have a lot of the circling roots, and then we have to check the core. The regions where there is old garden center soil, there are almost no roots. So here we have what happened is exactly what happens when you leave the core untouched and then you put proper bonsai soil around. All the roots migrate there. So now we will not touch much the roots on the outside, other than the points of limitation, and we will put a lot of effort in removing any garden soil that remains in the core. But we will have to rough up the roots on the edges so that they mesh properly with the new substrate. This section here, I'm just roughing up the surface, so the actual roots there, this section will remain untouched. But the surface itself, I need to make sure that the new soil and the old soil mesh and the roots have a good transition to go into. This area here doesn't have anything alive. The live vein is in this area here. So in principle I can remove everything here. I'm going to cut this big root here. I'm going to cut this one big root. And this is full of original soil. So this one here also can go. This is because in juniper, especially in a young juniper like this, there is a linear connection between roots and live vein. So if I don't have a live vein here, I don't need roots there. That's it. This is my root system now. I'll check in the pot again. How it fits. This area is untouched. So I think it's fine. We're ready to go. This tree will be debarked in the near future. That's why I'm not worrying about handling the bark, handling it by the bark. But if it was a pine, I would not do that. So let me put this tree somewhere. It's always a bit hard to do bonsai on your own. It's easier when you have someone to help, but most of us are always doing bonsai on our own, so okay. I feel very comfortable with the minimal amount of roots that I removed from this tree, and it has enough foliage to drive the regeneration of the root system. In junipers, the strength comes from the foliage, and so you should not remove so much foliage that you feel that you're impairing the life of this tree. I will use a 17 gauge galvanized steel wire. The reason why I'm repotting the other juniper that you will see in a moment is because I had not used galvanized steel wire in it when it was before I joined Mirai Live and started to learn from Ryan Neal, and effectively I was moving the tree around and I touched the trunk and it broke. So better to do things properly once than to have to redo it as an emergency. So I took the opportunity with that tree to put it at a different angle. For now I have put moss, sphagnum moss, to cover the openings as if it was a moss wall on a slab planting, and afterwards I'll put moss. The moss that will cover the pot will also go down into these areas. And I attached the tree with 3 wires. It's fairly rigid, doesn't move, and this is 17 gauge galvanized steel wire. This is not going to break as the previous wire did, so you might as well use the proper wire when to tie down your tree. The tree is in the right angle and the front is approximately here. And now I just need to put soil, chopstick it in, and then cover with moss, and that will be it for this tree. Because I'm using proper chopsticks that have a flat edge and a rounded edge, this one made of bamboo, I can chopstick the substrate, and the angled part is what pushes substrate in that direction, a direction perpendicular to the cut, whereas it doesn't move too much the substrate that is behind. And this is what allows me to not push the sphagnum moss out of the of the pot when I'm chopsticking here or here. This is the final result for the first tree. The front is somewhere here, so with a slight slant to your right, and that would breaking the edge of the container. Here is a defining branch coming here, and this has not been restyled. I just moved the branches to where they need to be before, according to the angle that I planned. As you can see, there is moss going down on these openings everywhere, and I reuse the moss. Top dressing is very important. It stabilizes the humidity of soil. It allows roots to grow in the surface. It stabilizes the soil in the surface as well. And I prefer to put live moss instead of dry moss. I read it in a book about moss, that it's easier to propagate it when it's green rather than dried and sporulated. So I reuse the moss. I really clean the bottom part. I remove any parts that have obvious weeds in it, such as the one that I just saw here. And it's a constant fight with these weeds, but I will then clean it as I see them appear. So this is the first garden stock juniper on a concrete bonsai container that I made just a few days ago, and it's ready to use almost immediately. The soil mix I'm using is 111 Shabazai, the diatomaceous earth pumice. So it's sort of similar to the 111 from Ryan Neal, which is Akadama pumice lava. So this is more or less the front. And from the position of the pads, I see that I got the angle where I wanted to. This pot has this lip here moving that way. This pot has this lip. Let me see, where's the front exactly. So it's here. This pot has this lip here to go with this movement, and also it's heavier on this side to provide a counterbalance to all the weight of the tree. It's not a visual balance, it's a real balance to prevent the pot from tipping over. Even so, it's a bit light, but when we put all the substrate, it will be a little better. Now the first step here will be to put sphagnum moss and cover this opening. I'll need my chopstick. This is long fiber sphagnum moss. So I'm creating a sphagnum moss wall as I would in a slab. Now as I fill with substrate, I will add more. I'm using the edged side of my chopstick to push the substrate in the direction where I want it to go. So for example, here I want to occupy the area inside here. I'm putting it like this, and depending in which direction I want the primary movement of substrate to go, in that direction I point my chopstick. Here it's about time to put a little more sphagnum moss. The entire opening from bottom to top is covered with sphagnum moss and with substrate in the inside. I'm pretty happy with how it's turning. Now I will get some of the old moss that is as a single unit from the previous container, and I will cover the opening here. So I'll actually use my scissors to remove what I don't need to have. And the only part here is this here, I think. Now with my chopstick I will try to sort of insert it . I think this looks awesome. So I have the sphagnum moss and the live moss on top, and this will keep growing, and this serves as drainage and aeration all around. And there is another one here, small one, where I'll put a small piece of moss in it too, but this is less visible, so it's not so necessary. Maybe the moss will grow there too. Now with the remaining moss I will cover the top. This is the final result, and I'm pretty happy with the angle, pretty happy with the stability of the pot. This detail here with the moss worked as I imagined that it would when I started considering this idea. I think the color is very interesting. It's sand with the dirt black color, and now this tree will be watered and will go on the heat mat, and that's it for now until until it's overgrown and has to be cared for again. So thank you for watching, and until the next one.